Hello, everyone. I am Gbesoye, Debo-Olujimi. I'm the Phoenix of Divine Transformation. And I've been privileged in this season to author this book, Doing and Being.
Gbesoye Debo-Olujimi is an entrepreneur, advocate for purposeful living, and author. Gbesoye is the executive director at Emadeb Energy Group, a managing partner with MTN, and the founder of Made for Impact. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in English and Executive MBA from the London Business School and multiple professional and personal development certifications. Gbesoye is a life member of the Enterprise Development Center EDC and a member of the Institute of Directors IOD. Gbesoye Debo-Olujimi is the author of Doing and Being.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Nice
Lovely
to
to
meet you.
have you
At
here.
last.
Yeah, I know.
Very nice. Great. It's really nice to have you on Channels Book Club.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
having
hosting us.
me. Yeah.
Thank you. Doing and being a guide to living intentionally each day. Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
Very powerful book. I'll come to that later on. But
Okay.
what's your story? Run a business, you're a parent, you do a whole lot of things, and then you manage to write this. What's your story, and what's the story behind the book? What inspired it?
Okay, I would say I got the inspiration to write this book based off two very significant experiences I've had. One in 2019, a near-death experience. I was in a car crash, and I survived. Yes, the accident. I survived it. So I started to be more attentive. I wanted to know why I survived it, because it was a really bad accident. Like you saw in the
didn't look
book,
good at all.
it didn't. The engine cracked, but I came out. So it started to call my attention to the fact that there must be something that I was meant to be doing that I probably was too engrossed in doing other things.
Was
so
a
I
wake-up call.
Was a wake-up call. So I needed to like pit stop and then start to be more intentional. So as that had happened, I was alive. I mean, like I say all the time, my arm was broken, but my mind wasn't, you know. So, I mean, I kept being intentional or being attentive to everything around me. And that same year, 2019, September, I went to the UK for my MBA. While at it, we went into 2020. COVID happened in March. You know, nobody quite knew what it was.
That was the time we were all thinking about our lives.
Our lives. That gave us time to reflect. You know, we now understood that not so many things are required.
Yeah.
We needed to be with ourselves and with our family members, those that really mattered to us. And still at it, COVID had, happened or had started in 2019. 2020. 2019 actually in China.
Late 2019.
In China, then it got to Nigeria 2020 March, and then everything like went, south. And we're actually planning to have my father's 80th birthday in April. So my siblings and I were going to all just be together. They were going to come, those outside the country were going to come in. But we couldn't, remember? Because there was the lockdown, shutdown. The airspace was locked down as well. So we had my father's 80th virtually, which he didn't quite understand. For each time he heard anybody's voice, he would say, "Shewonti Deni," like, are they around? So after a while, he said he was going to sleep. So my father went to sleep. Like, if nobody has come, I just keep hearing voices. So he went to sleep. And because my siblings and I have a lot of our family jokes and all of that. Anyway, to cut the long story short, in June of the same year, my father passed. Now, we're already at that space of mind where everyone kind of is reflecting, deep reflections, are taking place, and you're thinking more of things that are important. You're really thinking of the essence of life. So after my father passed, that got me to a different level,
Thinking deeply about life.
Absolutely.
And I mean, for context's sake, your book is about purpose.
Purpose.
Let's talk about what your book is about,
Okay.
so that viewers can understand
Yes.
that background. Your book is about purpose. Can you explain? You said doing and being, living intentionally.
Each day.
What's that all about?
Okay, thank you so much, Kunle. So, doing, like I said, speaks to activity, speaks to action,
Doing the things we
doing
do every
the
day.
things we do every day. And, there's a tendency for us to be submerged in the things that we do, that we lose ourselves sometimes, just sometimes, which is why intentionality is required. When you do stuff or do things, sometimes you're not even, because now you've done them so repeatedly that you almost don't need to think before. It's like driving. I don't know for how long you've known to drive. You can literally get behind your steering and just be driving to an address that you've been given without thinking, okay, where is the gear, where is clutch, all those kind of things. So, but when we start to pit stop, I say pit stop because, life is like a race. We need to take a break sometimes. We're constantly moving. If we don't even want to move, there's something chasing us. Is that your bills or expectations of others? There's something that keeps us ticking like a clock. But at a point where I've had these two significant incidences, or sometimes you might think they're not even, or incidents, you might think they're not even positive though. So why is she thinking they got her to this point? But I think it's always better to go to the house of grief sometimes.
Like you experienced in 2020.
Like I did in 2020, because it then helps you to reflect on your own life. And this is what got me to this point of the book where I'm like, so doing is good, but being is better because you're living from your core. Do you know what I mean? Now you are aware of who you are. You've taken time to discover yourself, your potentials. And then even in your doing, you're more intentional. You're giving value. Every engagement then brings value. You're not just checking, KPIs.
So what you're explaining is what you've written, what I read here. It has to start with understanding who we are.
Yes.
Before what we do becomes
meaningful, impactful,
fulfilling,
yes.
impactful.
Yes.
Is that a summary?
That's the summary, yes.
That's very powerful.
Thank you.
That's why chapter 1 here, you wrote chapter 1 here. Chapter 1 is titled, Who Am I?
Yes.
Because that's where it all starts, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
So when we say, who am I? Because, Kim Farile Olori, do you know what that means? We can't go and bob your head now without you being there. So this life that we have, we must be present in living our lives. Do you understand? So you must know who you are. So you could get 1,000 people to support you, but you must understand the role you play in your own life's journey. So you must discover who you are at first before anyone can support you, before you can even understand the people who should support you, before you can have a sense of where you need to go. So you must be aware. And it's okay not to have the full picture, as nobody ever really does, but have an idea.
Let me read something you wrote. You wrote in chapter 1, self-awareness is the ability to observe and understand your inner world, including your thoughts, emotions, values, and beliefs, and how they shape your behavior and identity.
Yes.
There's so much packed in there.
Yes.
So self-awareness is where it starts.
Yes.
For anybody. That's what you're saying.
Yes. That's where it starts for anybody who's ready to intentionally set out on this journey of purpose. Can I just have a quick detour?
Yes,
Which
please.
is the fact that whether we are aware or not, we're all acting out a script.
Whether we're aware or not.
Do you understand? From the day you were born, because you didn't even know that you were going to be born, right? So you come into this world, you didn't choose your parents, you went to certain schools, you're already acting out a script. But it gets to a point in life that you must become aware so that you now become a part of your own story.
What's the danger of not being aware, of not being self-aware? I mean, that happens to millions of people around the world.
Like there's this popular saying that when the use of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. And that abuse is not going to come from outside alone. It's going to come from within you as well. because you give away power. You give away permission for people to treat you anyhow. You give away opportunities that you could have leveraged to transform your world, transform a situation. So not knowing robs you of the joy of fulfillment.
Not knowing who you are.
You are, yes.
But the average person will tell you, I know who I am.
It's okay.
I'm Kunle. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer.
And it's okay for us to have an idea of, okay, but we must start to define ourselves from within, from the place of our value. So you get to a point in life, and because our lives also unfold in seasons. Every individual, the idea of yourself you had maybe as a primary school child would gradually shift when you get to secondary school. And from there, you'd have different versions of the understanding of yourself. So it's okay not to have a full understanding. So if you say your name is Kunle, okay, who gave you the name? Did you give yourself the name? So all those kind of things.
Yeah, because I get the sense that, of course, obviously, what you're saying is far deeper than my name is Kunle, I'm a doctor, and that. You said the ability to observe and understand your inner world. You can write a whole book on this self-awareness alone. I was reading, I was like, goodness me, your ability to observe and understand your inner world. And this thing is so taken for granted. I think that's one of the messages you're trying to pass on.
Yes.
That when you say intentionality,
yes,
we need to really sit down and think about it and figure it out, because we just go on autopilot and just live life. That's what you're saying.
Yes. And when I say we need to be intentional, sometimes we need to be away from the noise. We need to be able to stay with ourselves, to find ourselves, and then extend the invitation for the other people who should do life with us. Do you understand? If you don't stay with yourself, and maybe at this point I should also say, in staying with yourself, in being with yourself, you also find time to be with the Creator. Because we didn't create ourselves, no matter the law of evolution, no matter the whatever it is we've come to hear on this side. The truth is, we were created by a divine being, which I agree is God. So the truth is, you don't find your purpose outside of the Creator. It's almost humanly impossible. And like I said, when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Everybody has a purpose, right?
Yes.
That's your message. Let me read something over there. You said, at the heart of every life's journey is a quest for meaning.
Yes.
This quest demands deep, honest reflection. Why am I here?
Here, yes.
Then you wrote, you cannot ignore the quiet yearning for fulfillment in your relationships, work, and daily choices. Thus, the most critical question you must confront is, who am I?
Yes. Yes. And
so that question helps me to find purpose, right?
It does. That question does. And not in its totality in one sitting. Like I also put in the book, I'm sure you must have seen it. Purpose isn't a destination. It's not one thing. It's not one event. It's not after, once you have done Channel's book club, you have fulfilled purpose.
It unfolds.
It unfolds. And our ability to be attentive and be present within, from within, helps us to know what we should be doing part-time. This conversation that we're having helps us to fulfill purpose in this moment. Do you understand? Doing what we're supposed to be doing and being present helps us to do what is expected and to, also get the fulfillment that's required from it in this moment.
See, another thing I noticed about that subject of purpose is at times it is so, high up there. So, some purpose.
Lofty.
Lofty idea and all that. Can you explain it in a very practical, simple way?
As far as I'm concerned, it's just, so after you've discovered, you've actually come to terms with the fact that this is who I am, and these are the things, these are my values. So you define yourself from a place of value, and these are the people who should support me or who we have alignment on this journey, maybe in this season. Then you start to be more intentional with the way you do the things that you do. And for me, that's purpose. It's not a destination. You don't have to, when we're younger, they used to tell us, oh, find your purpose. So, sometimes purpose finds you. And when it finds you, yes, it brings you out. So it's like fire shocked up in your bones. You can't even resist. Then you understand. It resonates with you differently. And then you start to do those things that you were called to do till you embody them. There are certain names, like, for example, once anybody mentions your name, before we remember anything, we remember Channel's book club. Yeah, because you've done it so much that it has become who we know you to be. And that's also part of what identity is for a lot of us. Once you understand your identity, then you start to set out each day intentionally writing on the pages of your legacy. Because it starts with self-awareness, that's identity. And it literally just culminates with, what's it called, legacy, which is then unraveled after you're gone. So what would you be remembered for?
Let me read this. You wrote here, purpose unfolds in layers through different seasons. What you understand at 25 may deepen at 30 and evolve again at 40. That's why staying connected to God, the source, is non-negotiable.
Yes.
Then you also wrote, purpose is found in the small daily choices of how you treat people, what you prioritize, and where you invest your energy. See, why I like your book is that, it's very practical, very pragmatic. So you talk about how purpose unravels with time.
Yes.
Which is a problem I always had with people who talked about purpose in the past. It was always one big purpose, find it and that's it. And you explain that stage 1 of your life, stage 2, these things just keep unfolding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I were to give us my old download, we would be here till tomorrow. Are we ready?
Give it a shot.
Because, I've actually also been attentive to my journey. And one of my friends said to me, that's another thing. Who do you have in your community? Who are the voices you surround yourself with? Because sometimes you're not even seeing yourself. Like my daughter once said, when you're in the frame, you don't see the picture. When you're the one in the frame, you're not seeing the picture. So my friend said to me, oh, I've watched you embrace every phase of your life. I said, eh. She said, yes, that you embrace every phase of your life with joy. I said, oh, thank you. That was one of my biggest compliments at the time, because I've always believed in doing whatever it is you consider worth doing well. So for all the seasons that, I've preceded this one, I've also just embraced them. And there's a saying that, that's hanging in my office, and it's by Oprah Winfrey. She says, how you handle this moment determines what comes to you next.
What comes next? Okay, there is so much packed in your book.
I know.
Yeah, there's so much.
It got to a point. Let me give you a gist. It got to a point that I was thinking maybe I should make this book 3 books. I said start with one first.
I mean, you can pick a chapter there and create a book. Well, let's see what we can do with the time we have.
Yes.
In chapter 2, you wrote the nudge.
You cannot ignore.
What does that mean?
So when purpose has found you now, right? The times you just want to brush it aside. You're like, oh. For example, I kept thinking purpose topic again. Well, after there is purpose-driven life, there is something of purpose. Like, why do I need to speak about this? And then I heard in my spirit, add your voice to the conversation. Some people are just waiting to hear it from your lenses, from your perspective, for it to resonate. So we cannot shy away from those things. So everywhere I turned, seemed like that was what was coming for me.
Your nudge.
The nudge. So I couldn't ignore it anymore. Because remember I'd said, my attention was called to the fact that there's intentionality required of me in making an impact. That was 2019, 2020. Now I'm here. And this is one of the avenues for me to actually impact my world.
Everybody has a nudge, right?
Yes.
Everybody does.
Yes.
What happens when we ignore the nudge?
We keep on living
The rat race.
the rat race. The motion just continues like that, because we then would not find fulfillment in the things that we do. And it's interesting that it might even be things they pay us so much to do. It might be things that we were trained to do. You know the Ikigai framework. What you're trained to do, what you were paid to do, and what you love to do. When there's a sweet spot is where you find the fulfillment in it. But sometimes when we don't yield to the nudge that comes consistently, when we ignore it, or when we've not trained our inner being to understand that this is there's a message that we need to put out, or there's something calling our attention, then we just continue to want to be like every other person. We're just in a rat race, which is also something in the book that talks about the uniqueness of every individual. Just like nobody has your fingerprint, nobody has mine in the world, as many as we are. It speaks to the uniqueness of every individual.
It's powerful. Giving up your will for his, and you go all spiritual on me.
I know.
I mean, it's deeply spiritual, very powerful. Chapter 4, what could get in the way of your obedience? What caught me here, what caught my attention here is your emphasis on fear. How fear stops us from heeding to the call, from following purpose. Can you say something about that?
You know, the funny thing is, the way I said to you, I'm like, purpose again. Why this purpose topic? Will people want to hear it? Some people have already spoken about it. Everybody talks about it. So what makes you think your own? Thank you. Sometimes we give in to the fear of not being heard when we even heed to the call. But the truth is, just obey. See, that fear, there's something they also say, there's an adage in my place that I won't want to bore us with it. But if they say they want to kill you and you're crying already out of fear and they don't kill you again, what will you now do? You wipe your face in shame or what? There's that thing that I believe that fear is just like a policeman that halts you when you are in motion.
Yeah.
And it's actually the devil's policeman. It is not from God. There is no fear in love. And the fear of criticism, fear can come in different forms. The fear of embarrassment or getting embarrassed, all those things. When we silence the voice of fear, we're able to live fully. And when we even stumble or even fall, we pick up, knowing that this is not peculiar to me. Others have fallen before and they've gotten up. Not getting up is what will now be like, oh, the world has come to an end, but the world will never come to an end because of one person. So we must never allow fear to halt us in our tracks. We must live above fear, because we'll then realize that it's just a mirage.
You work, you work in the corporate sector. Have you met people, because, correct me if I'm wrong,
okay,
it seems very common in the corporate sector, people who are doing well professionally,
who
are earning money,
yes,
yet there's that emptiness,
yes,
that void in there,
yes.
And for some of them, they know what they ought to be doing, really, but fear holds them back.
Yes.
Because I've got all this big money, salary,
yes,
and all that coming in.
Yes.
I don't want to leave all that.
I don't want to leave all that. The fear of the unknown, sometimes. Fear of the unknown, because they're like, oh, how will I pay my bills? How would I even face people who already knew me as DG, something, and then I say I resigned to go and be mentoring people, teaching purpose. Now, what is the purpose? And that's why it's important for us to define ourselves from our intrinsic being.
That's what we meant by self-awareness.
Self-awareness, in that intrinsic with your inner world. Because anything that's physical is going to be transient. Be it fine house, new model of car, there will be a different model tomorrow.
So there's a constant tension between all the voices out there, all the attractions out there, all the expectations out there, and that inner world.
When you invest in your growth, in yourself, and you nurture yourself, spirit, soul, and body, to a point of alignment, then it's not going to be a conflict. It's going to be harmony. So you're living a full life.
That's where I want to be, right? Everybody wants to be.
I don't know if everybody wants to be there, but me. That is where I want to be. Because it's so fulfilling. You're so at peace. So once you understand, a certain level of understanding puts you in a place of harmony. So you're centered. Even when things are not so pleasant, you're looking beyond your immediate environment to focus on a bigger picture. And I know I've said a lot of big, deep things, but I pray for understanding for the listeners and the viewers.
Okay, lest we share everything in here.
That people can come.
Let's get people eager to read.
I know.
Now, what's your who do you want to read this?
Everyone.
Everybody.
Everyone. Age has nothing to do with it.
It's a powerful book you've written, and I think everybody should read this book. actually. Yeah, I think the subject of purpose is very important. Thank you for having this conversation with us, introducing Doing and Being, your book. Thank you for
Thank
being on
you.
Channels Book
I'm
Club.
super excited. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's
great.
been an amazing time.
It's a pleasure.